Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I've got a pretty quick one for you this time, yet it's something I feel is very important to elevating your home cooking, and is just something every cook should know how to do. We are taking a look at chicken stock. Well, one version of it anyway. I would call it an entry-level chicken stock, something for people who maybe want to make homemade chicken stock but think it's maybe a bit too much work, or maybe they feel like they never save up enough bones to make a batch. And beyond that, I have some videos coming up that call for chicken stock, so I want everyone to feel like they have something to go to if they plan to make their own. And they should. And why? Well, the biggest reason is it's so much better than anything you will buy at the store. Again, why, you might ask? Because fresh is best. The boxed chicken stocks are okay if you are really in a pinch, but given that they went through a sterilization process to become shelf stable, I feel they lack a freshness and depth. And compared to homemade, they have less collagen and other important nutrients like protein, and if you crunch the numbers, homemade is way cheaper. As for bouillon cubes, look, I promise I'm not a snob. I really believe that there is a time and a place for everything, but for me there really isn't much use for these outside of flavoring rice on occasion. Using these to make a reduced sauce would be a salty tragedy. They are just so processed that they don't really have the taste of chicken. They just taste like bouillon cubes. And to double down on not being a snob, let me take this opportunity to denounce any product that calls itself bone broth. Anything that is sold in a pretty little mason jar with a fancy label, it is just some company using the power of branding to capitalize on a fad. And all those so-called bone broths are just as shelf-stable as the box stuff, so don't fool yourself into thinking they are somehow less sterile than the others. I would almost rather you use bouillon cubes out of principle. I could preach on this more, but instead I'll leave an article link in the video description that unpacks some nutritional misconceptions behind this trend. In conclusion, if you want something that has depth of flavor and body, is nutritionally dense, and costs way less per unit than store-bought, make it yourself. So let's get into it. When I need a quick and simple chicken stock, I turn to chicken pieces from the grocery store because they don't generally sell carcasses, specifically anything from the lower half of the bird. I often find a deal on drumsticks, and that is my usual go-to, but today they had a sale on this big box of leg quarters, and because I'm such a generous content creator, I thought this would be a great way to show you two different takes in the same video. And these leg quarters are actually perfect because they also include part of the backbone, and in the stock world, more bones equals more protein and collagen equals more body, which is why I normally go for the drumstick. You could use thighs, but the bone to meat ratio is higher with legs, so I feel it is a bit of a waste of meat to use thighs. So, making your own stock is usually a lengthy process because one has to simmer the bones for hours to bring out all that collagen and protein. But we will be using a bit of brute force to speed up the process. A good sturdy chef's knife with some leverage is all you need. We get those leg quarters out, and the first thing I do is separate the leg from the thigh. This is a very easy cut. You just find that thin line of fat between the two sections and cut right through it. Once those are all separated, it's time to break everything up a bit more. Again, this is more leverage than strength. I break the drumstick into 3 pieces, and same with the thigh pieces, cutting it into 3, making sure one of the cuts breaks the thigh bone. I'm using the heel of the knife and just giving it a firm, deliberate chop. And yes, for the cooking nerds screaming at their screens right now, I'm aware that this will give us a cloudier stock. But guess what? I don't care. It speeds up the process, and honestly 90% of the time when I use chicken stock, it doesn't matter if it's cloudy or not. A reduced sauce for a steak? Totally fine. A blended soup? No problem at all. Cooking some rice or potatoes? So fine. On the rare occasion where I make a consommé or matzo ball soup, I'll make it the more traditional way. but for an everyday solution, this serves me very well. And as you will see, if you take care while making this stock, the final product isn't even all that cloudy. And so now we have all our chicken bits ready to go. In total, this is about 1.6 kilos or 3.5 pounds, and I reckon we can get roughly 2 liters of stock out of this. One of each type. For the first version, I'm just adding half those chicken pieces to a pot, topping it off with about 2 liters of cool, fresh water, getting it on the stove and setting the heat to medium-high, which I will drop once it starts to simmer. As for the other, I will get out my skillet and brown off these chicken pieces. This will give the stock a roasted chicken flavor and produce a darker color. I know this adds a bit of time and added cleanup to the equation, but I just wanted to show you that you have options. So, once all those pieces are browned off nicely, who can deny the beauty of a shimmering piece of golden brown chicken? We can get those into another pot, taking care not to add the rendered fat, add some cool fresh water, set the heat to about medium-high, and wait until it starts to simmer. By the time I got all the chicken bits brown and added to the second pot, our first stock started to try to boil, so I dropped the temperature so it just cruises along at a steady simmer. And this is when we'll start to notice foamy impurities forming at the top of the water. Impurities is a scary word, but they aren't poisonous. All the same, we just want to take a spoon or ladle and remove them from the stock pot. Some more will rise to the surface, but after the first 30 minutes or so, you won't have to worry about it anymore. And once the last of the impurities have been skimmed, we just let that pot go for a couple of hours. Eventually, our browned chicken stock catches up and begins to simmer, and so we drop the temperature and skim the impurities as they rise to the surface. And once the foamy bits have stopped collecting, we switch on the autopilot and let it go for a couple of hours. And if you have been paying attention, you will notice that I left one thigh in each batch whole. I just wanted to point out that if you really hate the idea of using the meat only as a means of flavoring this stock, you could indeed fish out the pieces after about an hour, pull the meat to be used for something else, and then toss the bones and other bits back into the pot. You will lose out on some flavor and body, but again, I bet it will be nicer than store-bought, all the same. So for the last hour of cooking, I want to add some aromatics to the pot, and here we are keeping things pretty classic. I have an onion, which I quartered, a carrot cut up into big pieces, some scallion greens because I didn't have leek greens, a rib or two of celery, a few bay leaves, a spoon of herbes de Provence, and a few cloves, which brings a nice warmth. And for the brown chicken stock, I have the same thing basically, only for this one I'm throwing in an onion brulee, which will help ensure a nice deep color for our stock. We just get those aromatics added to the corresponding stock pots and let them continue simmering for another hour. And after this final hour is up, our stock should be finished. The only thing left to do is strain that stock and transfer them to a container to be refrigerated. As you can see, they have a nice color and really aren't all that cloudy. And let's fast forward to after they have cooled in the refrigerator to see how we did on collagen extraction. Interestingly, the browned chicken stock has a thinner viscosity, though when I taste a spoonful it has a nice full taste, but the plain chicken stock really has a decent amount of gelatin. Not as much as a traditional stock, maybe with longer time and more bones, but pretty good I would say. That jiggle doesn't lie. And that is all there is to it, an easy way to make a really nice chicken stock. It maybe is not fast enough for a weeknight meal, but if you were cooking on the weekend and needed some stock, you could start this by noon and be more than ready by the time you are cooking dinner. And most of the process is hands-off after the skimming. So give it a try, even if you cooked it for an hour less than me, or maybe even if you skip the aromatics. I really believe that you will end up with something that outshines the stuff on the shelf, and it will have your personal touch. which is irreplaceable. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this crash course in chicken stock. It's not super traditional, but I hope it shows you that stock is not some complicated process, and the end result will elevate the taste of your cooking. If you enjoyed this video, please prove it by hitting the proper button and subscribe while you are at it. The traffic on the channel has been a little higher than usual lately, which I'm happy about. The more people I can share these video projects with, the better. And boosting the algorithms is nice and all, but I do also legitimately enjoy getting comments on what people thought about the videos, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the cooking process. I'm a professional chef, and I'm here to help. Until next time, cheers.